Well, then you can, July 21st, Cleveland Landmarks Commission meeting to order. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law, under COVID-19 emergency declarations, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rule of Order. Actions during this meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from the vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to taking of any votes. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raised hand function before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand function or feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop or mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or the facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. Then when finished speaking, please lower your hands and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located at the bottom of your WebEx screen. Please have this open during the presentations so that you can see what questions are already being asked and the order that they've been asked in. All meetings activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Slide.
Okay, we have one small technical glitch here. Whoever has logged in with the Cleveland Planning account, you need to send the host role back to me, please. There we go. Okay.
Okay, well then we will, Mr. Secretary, could you please call roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Anderson. Ms. Anderson, I think you're muted.
Here. Can you
Ms.
hear me?
Bailey. Thank you. Ms. Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Kalikia.
Here.
Mr. Collier. Mr. Dreyer.
Here.
Don, you cut out there for a minute.
Mr. Harrison.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Jones. Mr. Strickland. Mr. Tarasik.
Here.
Ms. Trott.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum. I would, for the record, I will note that Carl Brunges, Julia LaPlaca from staff are also in attendance, and Stuart Hastings from the Law Department. We have one change to today's agenda. The concept plan, East 20035 West 32nd and Franklin was removed from the agenda at the request of the applicant.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you for that note. We will then begin. I actually already called the meeting to order, so I guess we're a little ahead of the order, and we did roll. So there are no public hearings today and no public actions required today, so we'll move on to our certificates of appropriateness.
Madam Chair, just one point. Director Collier has now logged in.
Excellent. Welcome, Director Collier.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'd like to call our first presenter to use the raised hand function so that your microphone can be unmuted and we can easily identify you. As a reminder, the host will control the slides, so please state when you would like the slides to be advanced. Could the first presenter please introduce themselves and tell us about your project?
You're unmuted.
You're unmuted.
Okay, we're started already? Yeah.
Could everyone else mute their microphones though, please?
Okay, after seconds. Hello, good morning, commission members. So we are here to present Nottingham's Spur renovation of the Westwood at 2200 Overlook. Okay, great. Next slide. Oh, okay. Who's controlling the slide on this one?
They are.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
All right.
we are controlling the slides.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, what we're planning to do here is to do a renovation work on the southwest wing of the service building. As you can see, that is at the bottom left-hand corner. It overlooks a very steep ravine, probably around like a 30 to 35 degree slope down into towards Edge Hill. So the majority of the work is right there. I think you can go to the next slide. These are some proximate images along Overlook Drive. You can see that's a pretty kind of a quiet lane with probably just adjacent apartment neighbors. But pretty much it's overall a very quiet road on Overlook. Next slide. Thank you. All right, so as far as visual impact on the proposed site plan, we are initially proposing on the right side and the east side to do an alternate parking option. I think this is still kind of up in the air, just due to perhaps cost balance. We are going to do some facade enhancement on the front of the service building, and probably the most visual, I think the least visual because it's kind of happening all at the back of the building, would be the equipment platform. And we'll explain to you later what this is all about. Next slide. Okay. Just in context, we based on our Little Italy design review committee, there were some concerns about sort of like noise generating out of the proposed platform equipment. And we just wanted to point out that in terms of distance, as to how the equipment would impact noise situation in adjacent neighborhoods. So you can see that the notch tree buildings are somewhere between 179 293 feet, around there. We did some chart based on decibels, and really it came down to around like 46 decibels, which is really more of an urban background noise. So we try to provide some assurance, okay, that this platform equipment isn't really creating a lot of impact, noise impact. Next slide. Okay. Exterior photos kind of show the front of the service building. As you can see, there are 4 overhead doors on the top 3 images. The bottom 3 images is the back overlooking the ravine. As you can see, right now there's actually an existing platform that has deteriorated over time, and we are basically going to rebuild the equipment platform. It's going to be bigger. It's probably going to be 30 feet across, deep, that is. And it's going to overlook the ravine. Next slide. Okay, these are the 4 exterior elevation. The one on the, let's focus on the one on the bottom right, southeast. Basically, if you've seen previous photos, it shows opaque sectional overhead doors. What we are proposing to do is to create a full glaze overhead doors. Since then, okay, we are going to put a pair of glass overhead doors on the 2 ends and 2 middle glazed storefront units, and they're going to the pattern that we're proposing. On the side, that's not much except that there is a new side door on the southwest. Look at the image on the top right. On the southwest itself, there is a new door, an exit door right in the middle of the first floor that we're going to put sort of a platform deck to join to egress to the front. On the back itself, looking at the top left image, what used to be just metal siding overlooking the back, we're going to open up and we're going to put storefront glazing throughout that overlooks a balcony. And the balcony overlooks the ravine. The existing balcony is where the existing mechanical equipment is. And we're going to use it as a sort of a get-together space, which is the reason why we decided to open up the back wall and make it into an old glass wall in order to appreciate some of the lengths of the existing vegetation overlooking the ravine. Lastly, on the bottom left is a side view that shows some of the mechanical ductwork that is going to flow into the supply into the interior of the service garage. Just know that this facade is totally hidden from view. It's kind of sandwiched between the main building and the side of this building. That said, next slide, please. Okay, this is some of the just a material definition of what the color of it, color of the the storefront mullions and the existing vertical panels and the existing limestone, or maybe I'll use the word manufactured limestone. So as far as the colors are concerned, we have no desire to really like highlight anything, but just choice of material to be as compatible to the existing stone material and the vertical siding. Next slide. This is the section, and I'll explain a little bit later on the floor plan. You can see that from the left side is where we have the proposed platform equipment that we are going to overlook the ravine. Stepping up on the existing first floor is the balcony that used to be a mechanical balcony is going to convert into an overlook balcony. Then on the interior of the building, you can see on the second floor is a new addition. The existing building actually has a high ceiling, and through just careful design, we're able to put in a second floor for the purpose of the tenant use. Next slide. This is just a cross section, just to show that the second floor basically the opportunity on first floor. Next slide. Okay, on the floor plan, you can see that this is, let me see, what floor is this?
The second floor.
Okay, this is the second floor. This is the proposed second floor. And basically, the second floor is really an open space. You can see there's two exits there. The one on the top left is the new exit stair that would be required since we're adding a new second floor. The space will be used for like group lecture, breakout spaces, but essentially it's really just one big space. There's some support areas where we have one unisex bathroom, kitchenette, a platform lift, and AV closets for support spaces. Next slide. This first floor, again, top left is the new exit stair coming out, and it's actually discharging to the left, and then discharging out southwest to safety. In the middle itself is again, we're going to use this first floor space as a exhibition space. So it basically is just an open area with all the support electrical power requirements. The existing stair that is right next to the service lift, we are putting another one that another, what do you call it, a monumental stair that goes up to the second floor. So essentially that's where the second stair is. And the profile of the utility closet, electrical switchgear on the left, and a platform elevator. Next slide. All right, so basically this is just a floor plan of the utility platform that basically brought the equipment from the balcony down into this platform, which we are going to have two major rooftop units and two makeup units. Three of the four major units are really to service the existing facility, and the last dedicated rooftop unit is to dedicate for the client for the first and the second floor. Next slide. These are just some views as to what it would look like when you're overlooking from Overlook Drive. So the only visual thing is really the changes would be the overhead doors and the glass storefronts. Next slide. All right, this is a little bit close-up version of what it might look like with with glaze opening overlooking the inside. I think it will look pretty interesting. Next slide. A close-up before and after condition. Next slide. And finally, we have a sort of a view of the back of the platform equipment. So just to give you an impression of what it will look like when it is built. All right, next slide, if there's any left. Okay. Here is view. Citing any concerns from Little Italy neighborhood, we went to the site, so took some views as to what this these two arrowheads, okay, are probably two major points that are closest to the equipment platform, And we just wanted to demonstrate, okay, that the density of the vegetation during the summer months are really quite, I mean, it pretty much obscures the entire platform. So this is really just to demonstrate what it looked like. This may be the last slide. Is that correct? Okay. So anyway, that's our presentation. So I'm open up to any questions to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have feedback from the local committee?
Good morning. This is Ray.
Okay, Ray, I didn't know you were
Here
here.
we have Ray Christosic, his hand raised.
Presenting or talking, could you please mute your phone or your computer?
Good morning. Yeah, we reviewed it a few weeks ago, and the committee approved the project. There was concern that Jenny said about the distance in front of the houses, the noise, and the ductwork, how it was going to look at the back of the building. But the committee approved it with one vote or no, one no vote.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else present to speak on behalf of this project? Either a councilman or
Madam Chair, we have Councilman Griffin, we have Adrian. Somebody needs to mute their microphone because we're getting a tremendous amount of feedback.
Mr. Nottingham, would you try muting your phone?
Yep, there we go. We also have, so we have Councilman Griffin, and we have Miss Bailey also with their hand raised. Thank you.
Councilman Griffin.
Thank you, Madam Chair Trout. I'm supportive of this project. I think that it brings added value to the area. I've been over there a few times, and this is a very historic building, and I believe that this project is very uniquely done.
Thank you, Councilman, for your feedback. Anyone else from the public or the neighborhood to speak on behalf of this project?
We have no hands raised for the public.
Is there anyone from the Restoration Society here?
Good morning, everyone. I like the project the city architect has done in using renovation of existing building and match the rest of the conditions. Maurice, could you go to the next slide? Keep going. Yeah, right there. For city architecture, I just have a few questions. Could you explain how the platform going to be built, the piers, what it's made out of, and the final finished material? And then also the staircase, I'm assuming it's going to be CMU concrete mashing. Also the railing, what type of material and the height of the railing. And that's all I have for now. But I really like the building, how you blend it in the light. And talk a little more on the windows as well, the material.
Madam Chair, I do not have anybody on the sign-up sheet for the Restoration Society. And I have nobody with their hands raised. So to answer your question.
Thank you. So obviously that's fine. We'll move on to commission feedback. So
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Representative from the project would like to respond to Ms. Bailey's question.
We did have Mr. Pettit with his hand raised though.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Mr. Pettit, before you respond, city architecture or Mr. Nottingham, Mr. Pettit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the record, we have a letter from Historic Gateway Neighborhood supporting the project. They administer the historic facade easement on the building. and they have determined that the expansion will have little, if any, negative impact on the existing elevations of the historic First Church of Christ Scientists. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, would anyone from the ownership or the architectural side like to respond to Ms. Bailey's questions?
Respond to that lady just now. Oh yeah, excuse me, sorry, this is Benny again. I think to a question raised about the materials, let me just quickly describe. As far as the platform materials concerned, our original intent was to do like a metal graded design, but I think due to cost concerns, so I think we're looking to an alternative using a composite steel and concrete decking. How it is what do you call it? How it is held up is using all the cast piles, but we are also studying helical piles. As far as the appearance is concerned, it's probably going to be a series of columns that are sticking out, and there are going to be support beams that's holding up the deck from the underside. As far as the guardrails are concerned, it is really just a what do you call a 2-bar guardrail that surrounds 3 sides of the back of the platform. There will be some metal grating because there are actually existing lines there directly underneath the equipment platform. So in order to get access to the manhole, there will be a certain portion of the platform that's going to be metal grated. As far as the back of the facade where we have storefront system, basically it is a extruded aluminum section. So each of the mullions are approximately about 5.5 inches deep by 2 inches deep. As far as the glazing, it will be double insulated, probably about 65% light transmission. So it's going to be relatively bright, but it's not going to be overly bright. There's a little bit of tint in there with the low E. So and you can see dividing between the first and second floor, that's actually going to be like a steel framing system that would brace the entire storefront. So I don't know if that answers your question. Hopefully it does.
Yes, it does. And in regards to the equipment and the ductwork, what color is it still going to be gray so it can blend in with the building? Just tell me the color of the equipment.
Oh, okay. If you can move the slide back to the to the 4 elevations that has material definition, I think that would be the best way to describe it. Okay, yeah, thank you. So you find that the framing members on the top left. Again, our goal is to try to match what was in the existing siding, and at the same time, also in comparison to the existing masonry surrounding it, you'll find that that's more like an olive limestone color. So basically, it's really we're not calling out anything that's too loud. We're keeping things as subtle as possible.
That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the commission?
You have no hands raised, Madam Chair?
Oh. That's not true. Hello?
Oh, yeah, it's not raised, but go ahead, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's there, is it raised now?
There you go.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. So I have one question, which is, have you considered any sort of sound barrier around that area in the back, like an absorptive sound wall of any sort?
Sound barrier. At this point in time, though, at this point in time, we do not have one. Right now, we're just basing on a proximity of nearest houses on the neighborhood, just to provide some verification about what kind of sound it's actually producing in relation to the neighborhoods.
Well, if you begin to get complaints, because it's a sort of canyon, so therefore, you may find that actually the sound is amplified rather than dissipated by the distance between these areas. So I think you should consider some sort of sound protective barrier wall of sorts. I mean, there's been a lot of work done on absorptive materials, so you could probably find one that would do the trick.
Some of the thoughts would be to provide some added. Again, I think we're going to actually study some acoustic absorbing material. I'm not sure how to do it yet, but we may use the back of the wall as some absorption sound material. Since the majority of the back wall is going to be a masonry wall, is going to be kind of obscured by the equipment. I think we're going to try to exploit that to use that as an absorption barrier. The other thing that we're also probably studying is the two-car handrail that's surrounding the platform. I think we might actually consider screening it a little bit more. But if it's going to be partially opaque, it might present an opportunity to put sound deadening material at the back of the railing to help just to further help absorb the sound. It is our hope
I think that would be a very good idea.
Yeah. So with the new proposed platform that we're going to use as a concrete composite, based on that, I think the sound that is going to be transmitted out of the platform equipment is going to radiate upwards rather than downwards. We find in retrospect, after finding out that the metal grating, since it's open, may have subjected some sound infiltration down below. So, hopefully this value engineered solution may actually help the situation a little bit better.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Ray Kristosik and Adrian.
I'm sorry, who's the first person?
Ray Kristosik, and then we have Adrian.
Go, go ahead, Mr. Kristosik. Ray.
I agree with Member Mr. Harrison, because that was one of the biggest concerns, and we did bring that up at our meeting. If that, instead of it being a rail, could be some type of a solid barrier around that platform to kind of deflect the sound upward instead of outward. So we would hope that the commission would encourage them to look at other options to deaden that sound. Thank you.
Ms. Bailey?
That was a good question from Mr. Harrison in noise control. I heard what city architecture said. Did you mention about materials on the equipment and possible the ductwork can be sound absorbent, or is there such a thing on equipment and ductwork, or could you kind of answer that along with covering up the well that you mentioned? But I'm more curious of what you said earlier about sound absorbent material wise.
Okay, I think Adrian, I think any exposed ductwork would have to be insulated, both on the standpoint of temperature control and also for insulation. We do have concerns also above and beyond the surrounding neighbors too, because I think the tenant who is going to occupy this space would also like to have sound mitigation as they congregate on the balcony space. So I think it is probably in our best interest, business-wise, to mitigate the sound as much as possible. So we don't have a full solution in front of the board, in front of the commission here, but we are doing we're definitely making an effort to mitigate the sound, both from the standpoint for neighborhood as well as the tenant.
As well as material. That was my question. You know, using material, observe the sound. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
I would just also comment that I think the sound absorption and reviewing your handrails for both the utility platform and the outdoor space for the tenant might be a good idea, so that both of them can help make the neighborhood and spending time in that platform more enjoyable, and give you that sound absorption that will the surface for sound absorption. So you could still have the open rails on the sides potentially, but at least on the, what would that be? If this is a southwest, if I'm looking at the image in the top right corner, the left-hand rails, if those were made solid so that you could provide absorptive material, I think that would help the design and the neighborhood accept equipment out there. But I think overall it's a very modest, renovation with a very light hand, and trying to blend with the existing building and the existing area. Other questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, this is John Carlo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make a comment because I think I heard that the replacement stones would be full limestone. I was wondering why we cannot use natural limestone since the entire building is made of that material.
Okay, I think I caught partially. Let me ask if the question was that why was the stone being used other than real stone? Is that what the question was?
Yes, I think you said it should be.
Sorry, I'm losing you on this. I can't really hear you.
Giancarlo, can you type it in the chat?
Go to chat. Nothing happens.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is that I think along the presentation, you mentioned the full limestone as a potential replacement for some of the missing pieces, if I understood that correctly. And I'm wondering why you would not use a natural limestone with the entire building is made of that material. And I believe that's the Indiana limestone, which is easily available.
To answer your question, as far as use is concerned, or any stone renovation is concerned, it is little to nothing. The only time that we would actually, you know what, we're not even going to do any stone work except to take the balcony walls down to the balcony viewing level. So we're not introducing any new stone. Secondly, to answer your question, when we pursued this new addition back in 2004 and 2005, we went through part 1, 2, 3 through SHPO for historic tax credits. We have presented manufactured units, which is actually crushed powdered limestone that is being compressed into a manufactured unit. So what you're seeing now in the 2005 edition is actually real limestone. It's just that they are pulverized into powder and it's compressed under high pressure. So it's actually not cast concrete or any shape or form. And that was approved back then. And so we headed to the direction since. So that would be sort of a back history for you.
Yes, but are you using some of that or not?
I think you're breaking up again.
Can you
I'm
repeat the
asking-
question?
Yes, I'm asking if you're using some of what you're calling compressed limestone or not. You're not using any, you're not replacing any stones, any new material.
Right. The visual on this slide is just to demonstrate the introduction of materials to match the old ones. And really, the new introduction is the storefront overhead door framing, as well as the storefront framing.
So then you are using some for limestone. I'm just curious, are you using materials or not?
So what I'm understanding the responses by the architect and owner is that, I'm going to just answer because I think we're getting reverb on both sides, is that the scope of work here and the new materials are the storefront on the northwest elevation, primarily the new glass doors on the southeast elevation that will be installed in the material shown in the top left corner. The additional work requires a platform, which is a cast concrete and metal composite construction, which is shown in the northeast elevation, and that will be painted to match the, did I hear that right? That was the only thing I wasn't sure if that was just going to stay the platform stay in its natural state or be painted to match the stone.
Yes, that's correct. Like I said, the storefront overhead door framing is really the only addition to it. The rest is just referential.
So no new stone is planned for this part of this project. It's just the storefront and the platform.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Ms. Bailey wishes to make a motion.
Excellent. Please go ahead, Ms. Bailey, with the motion. Ms. Bailey, I think you might be muted.
Would like to make the motion to approve the project as presented. But there's a few items that should be submitted to staff. The study on the sound control, where staff can know with the final decision on that. And also, I would like the staff to have more detailed information on the support system for the deck. How is it going into the grade in the ground or below, et cetera. Just, submit detailed drawing on that to staff. So that's my motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
No hands raised at this point. Oh, Mr. Harrison.
I will second the motion.
Excellent. Thank you. Second, further discussion.
I have no hands raised.
All right, Mr. Pettit, could you please call roll and announce the results? Did we lose Don?
Yeah, I'm getting a
Oh,
low
error.
bandwidth signal from him.
All right, can I call roll
Yes.
since I can't vote?
Back.
I'm back.
All right. Mr. Pettit, would you please call roll and announce the results?
Maybe we spoke too soon.
All right, Maurice, can I call roll?
I don't see why not. Go ahead. Or we could have Carl do it.
This is Carl. I'm here. I can call the roll in his stead.
Okay, Carl, go ahead.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Colicchia, Mr. Colicchia,
Yes.
Mr. Collier,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Tarasik,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the presentation. We look forward to seeing your project move forward. We'll move on to our second.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to our second applicant, located at 4308 Clinton Avenue, facade renovation. Could our applicant please use the raise hand function so we know you're present, and then announce your name and tell us about your project.
Madam Chair, we have Antonia Marinucci.
Welcome, Mrs. Marinucci. Please go ahead.
Hi guys, thank you. Good morning. My name is Antonia Marinucci, and I am both the architect and the owner of 4308 Clinton Avenue in Ohio City. I presented to you guys back in February to get permission to demolish the front porch of this home. And so I'm back now with our proposed work, mainly pertaining to the front elevation as well as a rear alteration that we'd like to pursue. So this, as a refresher, is just some of the historic evidence that we found based on the original footprint of the home, as well as some other precedent images that helped guide our decisions for the front facade and the front porch and entry portico. Next slide, please. So we were finally able to get that overbearing, like vernacular style front porch off. A few weeks ago, we had some COVID delays with permitting, and this is what it currently looks like. So you can sort of start to see the original Italianate massing coming through again. We had thought that we would find a little bit more historic evidence that would guide us, or I'd hoped we would find more historic evidence to guide the proposed plans, but we actually ended up not really finding a lot. So I kind of just went back to the drawing board and had Tim Barrett help me, and we pieced together what we think is a pretty accurate proposal for restoration. Next slide, please. So what we would like to do, oh, actually, if you could go back one, I'm sorry, I want to point one more thing out. If you look in like the lower left portion of the front facade, that is what we knew to be was the original front porch of the home. And it was enclosed in kind of a sunroom type enclosure when they rebuilt the whole front porch, which we think was around 1920. That was taken off. So now if you can go to the next slide. The intention is to restore that side front porch to its original, to the original form it was in. Our main change to that area is that instead of at the porch, we want to propose that it's a door that looks like a window so that we could access the porch. Tim said that you wouldn't have direct access like that in a house this age, but we would like to make that modern update. We do have the two right-hand windows in the first floor are existing, and we have a carpenter who's confident in her restoration abilities to be able to restore the windows as well as recreate the ones that are not able to be restored or are not present on site, because we will have to recreate at least two. So that is the plan with for the front windows, and we are also proposing to rebuild an entry portico over the existing sandstone steps with a double entry door and a transom above that door. So if you could go to the next slide, please. This is just some of the found evidence that we were able to we had found pieces of these small corbels in the crawl space in the basement, and then realized that they matched the bay window on the side of the house. So our assumption is that they would have adorned this portico and porch. So the intention is to recreate it. And we didn't find any evidence of really a column style. So I just wanted to go with a kind of simple slender column to complement the simplicity of the whole facade. It's not an overly ornate or like high order Italianate, it's fairly modest. Next slide, please. For our exterior color scheme and other exterior decisions, we would like to go with a more modern monochromatic type look. If you look in the lower left, the aesthetic inspiration photo really spoke to us in a couple elements that were very similar in our house to that one. And we discovered that they had used a method of sheen variation with the paint to achieve like layers of depth and kind of the illusion of different paint colors when it's actually one paint color. And we would like to use that same method. The photo in the lower right is showing another house that's painted in all black, but shows the same paint method. So you can kind of see the depth that is created when you have different lighting scenarios on the facade. So the color we're proposing for the body, the trim, and the accents are the Rookwood Shutter Green from the Sherwin-Williams palette. And then for the restored windows in the rear and side doors, we want to use the tricorn black color. And the rest of the house will have new windows that will be 2/2 in style, and they will be aluminum clad in black. And we are proposing dimensional shingles on the hipped portion and the shed portion at the rear in charcoal. And then to add warmth to this sort of monochromatic look, we're leaving our brick foundation as brick. So we'll have a little bit of red at the bottom. And we would like to propose copper, a copper lantern that would hang in that portico. The front door will remain wood. And then the underside of the porch and the portico will also be left like stained natural wood, so that we have a bit more, warmth and break up that monochromatic look a bit. Okay, can you do the next slide, please? So I want to include the full elevations so that you can see the approach throughout the house. And also to note that we are proposing a alteration to the rear portion that you can see in the upper right-hand elevation, where the main hipped portion of the house, which I kind of refer to as the main portion of the house, steps back, and it currently has a lower hip portion, which I'll show in photos coming up. But that was the original servants' quarters of the home, and we would like to propose a modification to take that hipped roof into a flat roof that tucks right up under the cornice of the existing hip roof of the main portion of the home. And the reason for the alteration is that the interior space with the lower hipped portion is not very usable. We don't have a high clearance height for majority of that room. So if we can take it up to a flat roof, then that whole area gets about an 8-foot ceiling. So we can have more usable square footage on the second floor of the house. And my intention with the modification is to remain deferential to the existing 2-story hipped portion in the main house, which is illustrated here. You can also see there's a couple window modifications shown at that rear part of the house that are dashed. So the existing window locations are dashed in, and you can see the proposed overtop. Next slide, please. I just included our floor plans to be in case there are any questions about how things are located in plan. You can go to the next slide as well. So you can see in the upper portion of this plan that's showing the modification to the back portion of the home and sort of how the house is divided up spatially. Next slide, please. And then to be thorough, I wanted to include a photo from the rear so you can see the that portion of the home, as well as like just a little mock-up of what we are proposing. And I also, you don't have visibility from Clinton, but at the rear at 45th and Wheat Court intersection, you do have a little bit of visibility. There's not, there's an empty lot, kind of a catty corner to us that allows visibility. So I wanted to make sure that that was shown accurately as kind of a visible modification. Okay, that's all I got.
Madam Chair, we have Donna Gregonis with her hand raised.
Hi, good morning. This is Donna Gregonis with Ohio City Incorporated. The committee, the local design review committee voted unanimously to approve this. And they had little comments, but they did want to make sure that the paint sheen would be differentiated on the exterior. But those were really the only comments. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Director Collier.
Yeah, I think this is nicely done. I had a question that was not necessarily aesthetic per se, but with the flat roof, I understand the rationale for wanting that flat roof. But with respect to the material, because I know flat roofs over time tend to leak, what do you plan to do to prevent that from happening? So like, what's the material that you're utilizing on the top of that flat roof? Because it's a really nice proposal, but go ahead.
It will be, the roof structure will have a whole, like really short parapet around the whole perimeter. Okay. The roof itself will not slope visibly. It will have just a continuous roofing membrane. So we're going to be building up that structure above. It will be sloped like 1/4 inch to 12 inches. It actually slopes from the main house to the rear, and then has like a integrated, like kind of gutter scupper that will divert the water to the east and west sides.
Okay, that's great.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, we have Adrienne, I think her hand, I don't know if it's up from before or now. And then of course we have Mr. Harrison.
I just keep the slide right here. I'm just want to get understanding from the architect owner. The design that's in the right is the new construction, and the old one is on the left of the slide, which Director Carter said you're just removing the top roof. So just you're just redoing that portion of the structure, correct? Or is this something we're going to be voting on now?
Yes, could you restate your question, Ms. Bailey?
Yes. The question is the design that's in the white design on the left, the right two slides, and the existing one is on the left. Are we voting on the new design with the flat roof, or this is just a concept?
It is here for certificate of appropriateness, so I'm assuming it's for final approval. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what we're seeking.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Okay, I don't mean to step over Ms. Bailey, though. Did you have more that you wanted to comment upon, Ms. Bailey, about that back portion before I do?
I agree with I'm just wondering why the roof is not pushed like the existing and you're making it flat. So
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, and the window at the top on the right, you have several 4 windows right there. So I'm just wondering that are you making? I don't know how to explain. It depends on what the use is on the inside. I'm just wondering why it's so many windows on that elevation. So those
Are they
two things.
clerestory windows of some sort to the architect?
No, they're not clear stories. So when you look at the left, the picture that's labeled from backyard that's showing existing condition, that those windows that are currently existing on the second floor are on the floor. So if to look out that window, you have to like, you would be sitting on the floor or laying on the floor. So they're about from the floor to the sill of the hip is about 4 feet. So those windows are existing on the floor. So the intention is that it's not clear stories. Those would just be, and the reason we want so many windows is because that's our north facing view. So we get both north facing light, but we also get downtown and lake views from the bank. But those will be at like a 40-inch sail height. So they're from, if you can go back to the elevations, which is back 2 or 3 slides. So you can see the floor, the level line below, illustrating that, but they're not clear stories. We're really not gaining, I'm not gonna gain like, a 10-foot ceiling in here. I'm really just trying to gain a standard ceiling height.
Well, I think one problem with this is the flat roof aspect of it. Additions to Italianate buildings like this normally they continue a hipped pattern, and so have you considered changing this roof line to make it a hip and provide dormers instead of because what ends up happening is this looks like a huge, almost the same exact size as the front of the building, addition to, which is it's overbearing. It really takes away so much from the front by having this very, very large flat roofed extension on the back.
There are several Italianates on Clinton Avenue that do have flat portioned additions, historic, and I believe more modern additions, which we looked at very carefully before we decided on this path forward. It's also worth noting that from the ground level, the hipped portion of the roof in elevation appears to be a lot more prominent than it does when you are actually standing in front of the building. It kind of gives the illusion of a flat roof.
Yeah,
you know what I mean when you're standing from the street. And if I were to go for a hipped roof, in order to get the ceiling height that we wanted, it would have to tie into the existing hip, and I did not feel that that was remaining deferential to the historic portion, like, the main portion of the house. And I also still wanted it to physically defer to not negate the history of it being the servants' quarter. Wanted it
No,
to.
but they normally do tie into the hip in the back. And if you're looking at additions to Italianate buildings that look like this, they were added at a time when there was and with no respect to the original intention. So you can't make a new addition based on a bad existing addition somewhere else. That's not an appropriate source to be used here. I feel like there should be a solution that softens this roof line, because currently this is a real sticking point, I'm afraid. Wherein you've done such a great job with the front of the building. I want to praise you for that. So I'm not trying to scuttle your project, but I do think that there needs to be a bit more look at this back portion. I really do.
And also, the bracket, continuing that may help, because I'm
that might help too. You're right, Adrian. Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm agreeing with Mr. Harris, and that's why I was asking earlier. I'm not feeling this new addition right now.
Could I add something to that, please?
Of course, certainly.
Thank you. I agree with what both Mr. Harris and Ms. Bailey are saying, and I think at the lower right-hand rendering, you have that the first floor roof line. I mean, to repeat that above, I mean, flat roofs are problematic in general, but there's no historical precedent of viewing an Italianate structure that has a flat roof, and it just seems to be kind of ungracious and out of place. So I agree with what has been said in this regard. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the commission?
I would just like to say, is there a possibility we could approve the renovations to the front portion of this building and ask for a tabling of the back addition? In other words, separate these two for the moment so that the applicant can come back with either more historical evidence of an addition that looks like this, or a revised design of it.
Madam
Because
Chair,
I hesitate to dictate. I don't want to dictate how it should be. I just think that we need some more evidence or option on this new addition.
Madam Chair, we have Director Collier with his hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Collier.
apologize. I did not take my hand down previously. I apologize.
Okay. So to answer your question, Don, is it able to split the approval?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, that was Michelle Anderson that had her hand raised. I looked at the wrong hand.
Okay, well, let's answer one thing before we go to Ms. Anderson. Don, can we split the vote?
Thank you. Can you hear me all right now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are you ready for my question?
Sure, why don't you go ahead while Don offers back to us.
Okay. As for the exterior color, is it that monochromatic dark shuttle green for the body and the trim?
Correct.
There are a lot of lovely trim features to this house that might be obscured by that dark monochromatic color.
Can you go back to my sheet showing the finishes, please? So the main elements that we feel would, benefit from showing the use of the sheen variation technique is the cornice at the top, as well as the new additions at the portico and at the front porch with the kind of simplified details shown there. I think that the photo in the lower right shows that the sheen variation can still provide depth. The house itself, like I've said, is actually not very ornate. It's sort of ornate in terms of the scale of Italianates. So we don't have dentil, we don't have any, it's really just a tongue and groove flat cornice with the corbels up there. And the windows also have just a pretty simple arched trim that matches the shape of the windows.
By comparison to a lot of other homes in the area, it is, I don't want to say ornate, but there are decorative elements. It seems like they might be washed out by that dark green color.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Harrison with his hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
I will say that that a monochromatic color palette is perfectly appropriate for Italianate structures, though. they often, while we like to pick out the details with all sorts of different colors, like painted ladies in San Francisco, that wasn't actually the way they were normally painted. Even though you find that in books and periodicals from the period, normally paint evidence suggests that they were all painted one color, no matter what it was, mostly out of cost savings, because they could, there wasn't multiple different paints that they had to mix. So they were able to either paint it all white, which was often the case, or all of a different, of a solid color. So I don't have a problem with the monochromatic color scheme of this. So Mr. Pettit, could you answer my question?
Yes, I'll try.
Let me just say, I'll defer to your expertise, Commissioner Harrison, on the
Don, you might try using your phone to call in. That way it won't be dependent on your network for at least your voice.
I still can't hear me. Let me call.
No, we can hear you right now, Don, if you keep
We
talking.
can hear you for the moment. Yeah.
Go fast, Don.
I do have a comment while we're waiting. Is the door actually going to actually be that color, the purple color?
I'm not sure which purple color you're referencing, but the door will be wood.
One on the left, I mean on the right. You have two colors, one on the right.
Oh, yeah, no, that's just, no, we are not doing a hot pink door. That was just to illustrate the paint scheme. The door will be wood.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Don looks like he has a poor connection. In the past, we have done some split approvals. If that is something that someone feels strongly about, or we could approve it with the condition that the applicant must return with final design of the addition to allow her to continue moving forward the project. So those are two options to move this forward. Is there other questions or comments, or would someone like to put forward a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to put forth a motion to approve with condition, and that they can return to staff with the options mentioned with respect to the rear addition.
If staff does not feel that it aligns with the commission's feedback, he could ask for a return for the addition only.
Yes.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Harrison.
We have a motion. Mr. Harrison, are you going to second it? If not, could you hold further comment?
You're muted, sir.
I would like to second it, but I would actually very much endorse the chair's comments that if it does not align with what we've spoken about today, that it should come back before the commission for a final vote.
Just a comment, is the motion to approve of the front, the main building, but come back for the rear portion? That's what I thought the motion was.
The motion that I'm putting on the table is to approve with the condition that the applicant examine the rear addition with staff.
Okay.
And if the staff feels that it doesn't align with the spirit of what the commission is saying, then they can recommend coming back for that rear portion. Because there's a consensus around the comfort level with the front elements of the building, which I think everybody think is pretty good. So that was the motion, is to approve it with that condition. So they would come back to staff, not the full commission, only if that was necessary. But
All right.
staff can help make that determination.
All right, thanks for the clarification.
But the main issue is the roof line.
The main issue is the roof, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe we should just specifically mention that.
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think we all want to make sure that they're able to move forward with initiating their proposal.
Correct.
So any,
All right, well, I seconded that, so there we go.
okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. We had our further discussion. Is there anything else before we move on? It sounds like Don is calling in. Carl, until Don is full. Don, are you fully up and running on the telephone?
I'll try
No.
again.
No, we can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Please, yeah, have Carl call the roll. I'm still working on it.
Okay, Carl, could you please call roll and announce the results?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Colicchio,
Yes.
Mr. Collier,
Yes.
Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Drossik,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. We can then, I believe, Ms. You're presenting the next one also? Or
I
Ms.
am
Marici?
presenting the next one as well. Thank you for the first one. So on this one, Antonia Marinucci again. I'm the architect. Jake Murphy is the owner of this building at 4816 Franklin Boulevard. So
We have Mr. Murphy with his hand raised. Go ahead, sorry.
Mr. Murphy, were you just asking for your mic to be unmuted, or did you have a comment that you'd like to make?
Just the mic to be unmuted.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Marinucci.
thank you. So on this one, if you can see to the right, the existing conditions of the current home, it has changed hands in ownership, I think several times over the past 5 or 6 years, with, I believe, the past owners attempting renovation, and for whatever reason, backing out and selling. So Jake is the current owner, and his intention is to, actually follow through and restore this one. You can see in the 2014 photo that recently there was further, there were porch spindles and other kind of elements to that front entry that are no longer on the property. When Jake took ownership, they were already gone. You can also see from the Sanborn map that it's a little bit of an unusually shaped building in response to the former parcel line at the rear. Next slide, please. Oh, also, I'm sorry, can you go back one more? I apologize. You can also worth noting here, the kind of side smoking porch addition that you see in the photos that's at the front corner of the elevation was not an original piece of the house. If you can tell from the 1896 map that was a later addition that we're proposing an alteration to. If you could, next slide. So Tim Barrett had a recommendation to recreate the columns on the front porch to mimic the engaged corbels that do exist. So we will be going in that direction. And then we also wanted to explore just a couple modifications. The site the house has the side facades are prominent, just given the existing site conditions. So I wanted to make sure that that was shown accurately because the neighboring properties are not pulled up against the house like we see in so many cases. So there is visibility. I wanted to illustrate that. Jake desired to have the side addition that has a little existing smoking porch enclosed as interior space. The resultant space on the interior in the current form is not, it's really small. It's basically like a 7x8 kind of room. And he was hoping to reclaim the porch footprint as interior space so that that there would be actual usable space in that area. The other photo below is illustrating there is a like little kind of lean-to structure that at that rear bump out currently existing that's in really poor structural condition that we would like to just remove and complete the facade with just one window and some fill. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is the front, the primary elevation from the front as proposed. You can see the intention is to restore some of the elements that were, like I said, pillaged from the property in recent years that exist, the front porch and the handrail, spindles, the stairs. There were several brackets on the bayed portion that you can see in the upper right that were existing but are not anymore. So proposal to recreate those. The windows on the front and side facades will be just new, replaced with new, no modifications to the openings on the historic facade. The newer modifications would be the enclosure of the smoking porch, which is illustrated in the lower right. And we'd like to repeat the same rhythm of the window. We can't get quite the head height, so you get a little difference there, but keeping it simple with just one window facing the front and one to the side. And the Design Review Board at Ohio City Inc. recommended to keep that corner board of the two-story portion of the home continuous. So I just wanted to note that we're showing that here, but it's not a separate, those will still be planar. So the corner board is extended to illustrate the two-story gable portion. And then to the left of this elevation, you can see where I'm proposing the removal of the like lean-to type structure and just filling it in with exterior wall with wood cladding to match on both of those modifications as shown. And the rest, can you go to the next slide, please? So for the color scheme here, we'd like to propose needlepoint navy as the body of this home, and then Greek villa as the trim and accent colors. The windows will be new aluminum clad wood in the double hung style, no lights, no divisions. You're also proposing kind of like a clean, modern, traditional style lantern at the existing lantern locations. And the facade is generally in good condition, the historic cladding. So we will be keeping that and patching and feathering in with like material where needed. The window trim will also be remaining as is and recreated in the areas that we're proposing to fill in as shown. I believe I have, can you go to the next slide? I think I have the floor plans in here too. So if you look into the first floor demo plan in the lower right, you can see where the existing porch is. And you can also see, if you look to the rear where that one-story bump out is beyond the stairs, where we're proposing the removal of that lean-to structure, which is basically plywood. And next slide, please. Next slide. Is that it? Okay, you can go back to the front facade photo, please. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. Feedback from the local design review committee.
Hi, good morning. Donna Gregonis with the Ohio City Incorporated again. The local design review committee approved this with the condition that the corner board is retained. They wanted to make sure that the design was not fooling the eye into thinking it was a part of the original house. So that was their reasoning behind that. There was also some comments about exploring a chandelier style light. Maybe Antonia could elaborate on that a little bit more, but those were the only major comments. Thank you.
Yeah, Doug Wall had the suggestion of doing a hanging lantern in the portico, which is something that we do see frequently in the neighborhood. The existing lantern locations are shown. It's just replacing existing fixtures, and the client preferred this look, so that's why we proceeded with it as is.
Madam Chair, we have Adrian and Mr. Harrison.
Okay, Ms. Bailey.
I just want to understand what comment Donna made. Did you made a comment that the existing porch is retained? Is that what you said in your notes?
Oh, the existing porch. Are you talking about the smoking porch?
Yeah. Did you mention that?
I did not mention that. I noted it in the comments in my notes. There were some comments about that from a neighbor, but I know from conversations they had, I guess they ironed those details out. I don't know if Anthony would like to elaborate on that as well.
Okay. Well, I like this presented. The question I have is what we're looking at right now, to the architect and the owner, the bottom side of the porch with the railing that we're looking at, is the color going to be both the acid and the field color, meaning the board is going to be the blue and the trim is going to be white as well? Or is it all blue?
No, in this proposal, the body, the cladding will be the blue, and the Greek villa will be the corner boards, the trim, the rake board, the fascia, the soffit, in the porch elements.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
What is the height of your railing? I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison.
It's as drawn 36 inches.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Hi, I commend this very much. I think this is a great restoration. It really looks terrific. I think your contemporary solutions are very appropriate. I like the roof line of these. I would say that, sometimes we fall all over ourselves to try to abide by the Secretary of Interior standards to make sure that things, don't look like they were part of the original. We're not trying to mimic identically, but I think a lot of articles have been written about that aspect of the Secretary of Interior standards, that in fact, the only portion that needs to be modern are the materials. And so you can absolutely reproduce or make something look authentic. And if you use modern materials, no one is ever going to confuse that as original fabric to the building. So, I support and commend our design review committees who really take that in consideration, but then they take it too far sometimes, and that ends up having carbuncles put onto the side of buildings simply to show that they're new. And that's not, it doesn't have to be that bad. So anyway, I commend this. I think this is an excellent and appropriate modern solution for earlier additions that were put on. I would also suggest that both lighting schemes are appropriate for a house of this vintage. And then finally, to the architect, have you already created those porch columns?
No.
Have they been made?
No. No,
Okay.
not.
Well, I notice in your drawing, it seems that you have a base section at the very bottom. In practice, that should be a lot taller and heavier. And there are lots of existing examples of that around Cleveland. There's a house in Tremont, 1103 Starkweather, on the corner of Starkweather and West 11th, that has original square supports like that. So I would very much model those new ones after older ones, because you want to make sure that the proportion is right. You're going to the expense of doing it, and I really appreciate you doing that and not just buying something from Home Depot. So if you're going to do it, do look at a number of them before you actually draw them.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Murphy and Michelle Anderson.
Go ahead, Mr. Murphy.
Everyone, I'd just like to point out just a couple of things on the front facade as well, and hopefully we have an understanding and a bit of a reprieve from it. The prior ownership actually went ahead and demolished and removed certain articles from the home without building or historic permit approval. So we are missing the front door, I just would like to note, and we are going to recreate with wood transom as shown to try and recreate the best we can back to the historic factor. The other point I'd like to make is the sandstone on the front has been painted, and I'm sure some of you are aware that it's very hard to be able to get the paint off the sandstone to get it back to its former feature. So what we're going to try and do is clean it as best I can, and if I can get it back to natural sandstone, I would love to do that. If not, it's going to have to be painted within the color scheme approved. I think Antonio made a really good point of the shanty structure onto the left of the building at the bottom right there, that we're going to take that brick facade base off and bring it back to the natural sandstone that's there for the footing of the building that is still retained behind what that is. So overall, I'm excited to be able to put this project forward. I know that it's been on the board's eye for a long time, and it has been an eyesore for a long time. So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to bring this back to where it should be.
Well, I, for one, think you've done an excellent job with that, and I think there's going to be no real way to take that paint off successfully, probably. I mean, it can be done, but it's an expensive and long, a long venture. So if you have to paint it, please do keep it within the color scheme as you've suggested.
Sure. Thanks, Sean.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes, what are the materials of the porch railing?
There will be wood.
We would. Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess I would just want to echo what Mr. Harrison said. I think on this project and the one previously, I don't think I stated it. You know, I appreciate your attention to the detail and your research in trying to find out the appropriate details, not the easiest details, and bringing them back, you know, to as close as you can to the original state. So I think both of these are great projects. For this one, I think in just the comments on the porch would be appropriate, and to submit, you know, if you do end up painting the foundation, submit that color to staff, because Mr. Harrison, wouldn't traditionally they have been left sandstone in its natural state? So on a sandstone like paint color would probably be appropriate. Do you agree?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. I mean, some sort of gray would probably be appropriate. Gray to brown gray, you know.
We can work that out. That's not an issue.
Yeah, that's totally fine, Julie.
Any other questions or comments, or would somebody like to put forward a motion?
We have no more hands raised.
Okay, if commission members would like to open their mics, would someone like to put forward a motion?
This is Adrian. I would like to move the make a motion to approve the presentation as presented. And my understanding that they work with the foundation, just correct me if not right, and the material for that. Am I correct, Mr. Harrison?
If they end up painting the foundation, to submit that color to staff.
Okay, all right. That's it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I second.
Any further discussion? Okay. Either Mr. Pettit or Carl.
Madam Chair, we did have Carl Brunges with his hand raised.
Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to confirm Mr. Harrison also noted to explore the widening the base of the pillars on the front porch as well. Should that also be part of the motion?
I don't feel that has to be a part of the motion. No, I think that's just a suggestion to the architect.
Thank you for clarifying that. Would you like to, or could you please call roll and announce the results then, Carl? Or is Don back online?
That was a yes.
It's mail time in my household, sorry.
I will take care. Okay. Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Kalikia.
Yes.
Mr. Collier. Mr. Collier. Mr. Dreyer.
Yes.
Mr. Harrison.
Yes.
Tarasic.
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. We look forward
you,
to
guys.
seeing your project move forward.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.
Thank you. We will now move on to our fourth applicant, located at 3110 Carroll Avenue, the addition and renovation. The applicant, please use the raise hand function and identify yourself, and please remember that the facilitator will advance your slides.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Ellison with his hand raised, and we'll unmute his microphone.
You know, my computer doesn't have a microphone, and I'm talking through my phone. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Thank you. If you'd like to scroll through these slides, this is the application we filed for the project. Here's the floor plan. We're proposing a two-room addition on the west side of this house, which is shown in the dark pochade walls. And if you go to the next slide, the front elevation of the house is at the bottom of the page. We worked extensively on this elevation a couple of years ago and added the canopy over the door and replaced the siding with boral lap siding, which is that beveled lap siding that very closely matches the wood siding. Our proposal is to add a one-story addition to the side of the house, which you see, and we're proposing to use the same materials and the same color scheme for the new addition. It's a reverse gable that you can see in the upper right-hand elevation with a hip roof extension at the back of it, so that from the street it reads as a reverse gable, and then the shed or the hip part of it sort of hides behind that. Would you like to go to the next slide? That's a section through it. And if we could continue on the slides, we'll get to the pictures of the house. If we go back to the picture, please. Or forward, I guess. This is the front of the house. This is the side that we completely replaced the siding and the windows on a couple of years ago. And then the addition would go right there to the left of that, the front elevation. Could we go to the next slide, please? And it would fit right here in the side yard of this house. Now, this house has vinyl siding on the three other sides of it, and that's what we're looking at here is vinyl siding. So our proposal is to complete the addition in the new materials and to leave the vinyl on the body of the main house. Now, it may be that when we take the vinyl off to add the reverse gable at this section, that we have to go with new vinyl in its place. But underneath this, there's sort of an unpredictable substrate. I think we're looking at cedar shingles, actually, that are underneath this and not lap siding. Maybe we could go to the next slide. There it is from the other side. And the next slide, please. The rear of the house was worked on, I don't know, about 20, 25 years ago. And they acquired a bunch of leftover windows from a lumber yard and put them in, which is what we're looking at here. That won't change, but the door, the French door, or it's a double patio door, I guess, is underneath this sort of tent-like enclosure, will be replaced with a single door and side light. And if we could go to the next slide. This is the row of houses along Carroll Avenue, and we could just go slide by slide here, and you could see what the context is here. There's the lot next in the first house, and the lot's the house we're talking about. Next, and then the house, the 3110. And the house next door to that. It also sits on a double lot and has a side addition to it. Can we keep going? Just to look at the houses along this street. And keep going, please. And this is just to show what's along the street here. I don't know that you need to linger on these shots. Anyway, that's sort of the row of houses along that street. And I talked to the owner about comments from the local design review, and she would really like to have the center Muntin bar in her new windows. And she also prefers the 3 windows across the front, rather than the scheme that we talked about with the local design review, where there would be 2 windows there on the front instead of the 3. I didn't say this when we were on this elevation before, but you can see the doorway underneath that arched window and what's now enclosed by a tent that is currently just a double French door, but we're proposing a single French door with side lights. And I don't have much else to say.
Okay, thank you. Is there feedback from the local design review committee?
Hi, good morning. Donna Gregonis Bailey again from Housing Incorporated. So Mr. Ellison was approved unanimously with the recommendation that there are 1/1 windows on the new addition. But also there was a mild preference. It wasn't super strong they noted as well, so I'm not really sure what that would mean in the approval, but, and then there are also comments about having the 3 on the facade, the 3 windows on the facade, that they look good, or having 2 on the addition. They weren't really strong about that either, but there was a lot of conversation regarding that. Thank you.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did forget one thing, because when I talked to the owner, she wanted to adjust the size of this rear part of the addition slightly, so that rather than that one window being squeezed in between the chimney shape and the addition, there could be 2. And right now, you can see that it is about 2 feet more shallow than the reverse gable, and so she wanted to the addition in that direction and squeeze it in the other direction. And so I sent over some revised drawings that don't actually affect the concept here very much, and they don't substantially change the way it looks. And if you wanted to be ambitious, we could try to let you see my screen, or let me show you with my camera the revised drawing. But like I say, the conceptually, it's no different, and it doesn't actually make any substantial difference to the architecture, I don't think. So if you want to see it, I'll show you.
Madam Chair, we have Ms. Bailey with her hand raised.
Well, let's answer Mr. Ellison's question. I don't believe you can screen share, correct, Maurice?
Right, we're not screen
You have to
sharing.
Either send it to Mr. Rulins, or you could turn on your camera and show it to us via your phone.
So in order to turn on my camera,
You'd have to FaceTime it. Yep, you'd hit FaceTime on your phone.
Now, can you see anything?
No.
Can you see me? No.
No.
I can't see anything, so you'll have to tell me if we're looking at anything or not.
No, you don't have an image.
So I'm not really sure what to do with this. The scheme is really no different than what you're looking at. It's just minor adjustments about the size of that back room. So personally, I wasn't too concerned with it as the designer or an architect, and I don't think that you all would be if you saw it.
I did type my email address in the chat window. If you want to send it to me, right, I can display it for you.
Okay, let me try that.
And we also have, so we have Adrian, Ms. Bailey, and Mr. Harrison with their hands raised at this point.
I like the new addition on how you're trying to blend it in with the existing condition. I just only have 2 questions in landscape, how the landscape works around with the new addition. And I'm looking at the new windows. I'm just wondering, could they be lower, like for example, on the north side, as well as the west, and the lower one, just kind of lower it down whereas it can blend in with the top height of the existing windows, not the one on the bottom far left, but at least with the main structure of the home. That's just my comment on that. Why you have it at that height and could be lower? To yeah.
Can you tell me again which windows you're talking about?
Yes, I'm looking at the north one and the west one. Okay, well, the slide just changed. Okay, there we are. If you look at the window on, I have to, that bottom elevation with the existing, with the porch, you can see the height, top of it, just lowering the new window down just to match the existing window for the bottom, and the same thing for the west and also for the north. That's just my comment. So the top of the window can match the top of the existing. And then also I asked about the landscape.
I just wanted to point out that these are drawings that Carl just sent to me. Mr. Ellison, is this the drawing you were talking about?
That would be, yes. And unfortunately, what I was noticing is that when I had adjusted the west side elevation, I didn't get it quite right, and the space between the reverse gable and the first window is a little bit larger than it will actually be. It'll be closer to the size of the space between the other window in the rear section of the addition and the edge of the building, so that they're symmetric on the inside. But that's like a 4-inch. I didn't stretch the window properly, and I submitted a drawing with an error on it. So I don't know that does very much good. The floor plan will show you the adjustment to the shape of the building, which caused that. So here you see that the rear section of the addition is pushed back by about 2 feet. And in the new arrangement, it's pulled out to within 4 inches.
So
I think the intention. I'm sorry, on those windows, the intention was for the window head height on the addition to match the window head height on the house. And if that's not the way it's shown, then we need to change that, and they should match. The head heights of those windows should be the same, Ms. Bailey.
Do you have information on the landscape around the new construction?
All the way around the new construction, they should match the ones in the house, or the main windows in the house.
Oh yes, I agree. But I'm talking about the landscape now. I'm trying to see how your landscape is around the new construction.
It's not completely resolved yet. What is shown on the floor plan is the existing hedge being shortened and the gate through it being realigned with the pergola on the garage. But my sense is that when we take that hedge down to build the addition, that when it goes back up, it won't go back in the same position. And what we've discussed is taking the hedge that's currently at the front of the house and running that all the way across the property. But we've also discussed moving that hedge up to be right next to the fence. And I'm afraid I don't have a firm answer on where that hedge will end up when we're all done. But so far the discussion is to move it up in line with the house and the hedge in front of the house, or move all the hedges up so that they're right up next to the fence.
That's it for me.
We also have Mr. Harrison.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Ellison, what will I'm sorry, I was confused by the discussion of vinyl versus non-vinyl siding. So will your new addition have vinyl siding, or what will it be clad in?
No, the new addition will be the boral beveled siding that matches the profile of wood siding and matches what we did on the front elevation of the house. The remainder of the house is currently covered in vinyl, and we'll either repair that around the new addition, or we'll have to replace it depending on how it cooperates or doesn't cooperate with us.
Have you done any investigation of what's under the chimney vinyl?
That's a wooden box that was put on at the same time that arched window was put on in the 90s.
Okay, thank you.
If we could get a high efficiency furnace, we could get rid of that box completely, which would probably be good. But that hasn't been part of the scope of work yet.
Well, finally, I do want to just commend you. I think that you've done a very sensitive design to this for this addition, and I think I support it fully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the commission?
Looks like we have Ms. Bailey again.
Go ahead, Ms. Bailey.
If there's no comment, I would like to make a motion. The motion is to present, to approve the design as presented. With the adjustment of the header window to match the portion on the home is not being renovated on the first floor.
Okay, thank you for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a second by Giancarlo. Any further discussion? The only comment I would make here then, since I didn't get to make it earlier, is that, it sort of echoes what Mr. Harrison said. It's a very sensitive design, and I think it's will fit the house nicely. Any further discussion?
I believe Mr. Pettit is now on the phone, so maybe he could actually call the roll.
All right, Mr. Pettit, can you please call roll and announce the results?
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me without feedback.
Turn off your mic on your computer, Don.
It should be muted. Hang on.
It is muted.
Let me do this. Okay, now you can hear me?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Colicchio,
Yes.
Mr. Collier, Mr. Dreyer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Tarasik,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing your project move forward.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our fifth applicant located at 4612 Clinton Avenue, new construction of house and garage. The applicant, please come forward, state your name for a record. What's your project?
Madam Chair, by way of introduction, I'd just like to remind the Commission that we approved a new house construction at 4610 Clinton late last year. It hasn't been built yet. It's still in for permits. I've added a couple of slides to the presentation, which help, I think, with some of the streetscape context. But I just wanted to remind the Commission that there is a new house going up just to the east of this proposal. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I believe we have Rachel Smith, who is the owner.
Hello, I'm Rachel Place now.
Oh, okay.
And this is my husband, Anthony Place.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was actually almost 4 years ago, so.
Okay.
So we are the owners of 4612 West Clinton, and we are proposing a single family home on that lot. So Don, if you could move it forward. So currently it's a vacant lot. If you could keep going. So again, just the lot. This is the site plan. So you'll see the single family home and then a 20 by 40 garage with a parking pad in the back. So the next few slides are the design of the home. So it would be a hardy board siding.
Yeah, it's the front of the home is to be hardy board. We had talked about doing composite railing in the front as well. Are we doing vinyl on any sides?
No.
So yeah, it would be hardy board on all sides then.
If you could keep going. So here's the right elevation. That's the east side of the home. Next slide. Back. The north facing side. On the west, we have that staircase bump out, and then the garage proposal, where we would be doing the 3-car garage. So Anthony is a construction worker. He owns his own business. He's got a very large truck and a lot of tools, which is why we have it designed this way. Our vision is to do a electric fence in the back that would open and allow him to pull in, because he loads and unloads that work truck every day. So that would have him pull in so that he's on a parking pad, and then he can load and unload that truck on our property. So if you keep going to the next slide. So the exterior would be a russet red, and then the trim and the front porch and the posts, which would be composite, would be that classical white. A black double hung window. And then the next slide just has the black door, the side lights, and the transom. And so I'm assuming that this is the house that's going to go next to ours, the 4610.
Okay, anything more with your presentation?
No.
Okay, perfect. Don, do you want to give the context before we move on that you included at the end, or just any? Do you have any other further comments besides the context on drawing that was included after this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maurice, if you can go back a slide or two.
Which view?
One more back. It's a streetscape view. No, you got to go ahead. I'm sorry. Go back after the door, the slide with the door. Forward. Go forward. Keep going. There should be, oh, there it is. That was the streetscape that was presented to us when we reviewed 4610, which in this image is the house in the center of the 3 on the streetscape. There is also a house being renovated in the rear of that house. Just wanted to add these for context with the new house. Thank you.
So the new house is going in between the one in the center and the one to the left, in that small area there?
Correct. Yes. And I can't vouch for the scale of these drawings, but this is what the prior applicant submitted to us.
That doesn't seem possible that it could fit between those two.
Yeah, those dimensions seem off. Our lot is 50 feet wide.
Again, I don't know if they're to scale.
Is that house on the left existing?
Yes, that's the existing house to the left. Yes.
All right.
So we may have to use a little bit of imagination to stretch it, the existing house to the left more.
Yeah. It was more to show height and the facade of the new house in context with the other new house.
Okay, thank you. Do we have feedback from the local design review committee?
Hi, good morning. Donna Gergonis Bailey with Ohio State Incorporated again. So the local design review committee did not review the colors that were presented. So I do want to make that noted, but this was approved mostly as presented. I have a lot of comments and I know I sent them in my certificate of appropriateness. Would you like me to go through all of those notes, or should I just comment on the most, maybe the couple of the larger items?
We should go through them, I believe.
I think we should hear them all, yes.
Okay. So there were some comments about the site plan and needed updating. I wasn't sure if the site plan was updated or not. I apologize, it's been a couple weeks. So the railing on the porch, I know they were asking if it would please be wood, and they would not approve aluminum. They're asking for larger trim around the windows to break up the hardy board, which I think, I can't read the date on the drawings, but it looks like you may have updated that. They were asking for a smooth AZEK or wood, no aluminum again, or even a pressure treated lumber, but for the columns. And smooth hardy, they do not want faux wood grain on this facade anywhere. They're asking to make the rake board more substantial. They weren't specific on the size, but they suggested possibly a 1x3 or 1x8 rake board. Asking that the underside of porch be tongue and groove or knotty pine. And lower the lanterns on the facade, which it looks like you may have done. On the west elevation, they also asked if, it looks like the drawings were updated actually.
They were. They were.
And they commented to maybe add another window on the second story, but that wasn't made a part of their motion. So it was just a comment to really consider it. There was a strong preference that the garage lines line up with other garages on Wheat Court beginning of the presentation, but that was before the committee understood that that Mr. Place would be needing to use the garage for his business. So there was some consideration with that and discussion. And then one of the committee members said that his vote was contingent on the front door not being steel, but everyone else didn't specify that. So, but they did ask that the door be wood if possible, but I know there's some cost consideration there. So they did ask, the applicants did ask if there could be, some leeway on that. And then the fence in the rear needs to be developed more. So there needs to be more design on the front of the fence. So that was not approved or denied. They just need to have more development on the fence. And asked if it could be a mostly opaque fence as well. Another thing, they wanted to make sure that the windows line up in the front, which it looks like they do now, as the drawings have been updated, and ask the windows to be a little bit larger. So I don't know if these are larger than the prior drawings, but it looks
larger.
Okay, they look to be more in scale with the building that's proposed. Also asking that there would be a detail sheet on the columns in the front. And again, repeating that they're not aluminum, that they should be wood or something like a composite. And then the roof lines were fine and drawn. And they wanted to see a second story stairwell drawing, but I don't really know. I don't remember why. I apologize. But again, the colors were not discussed as presented today, and those are the comments I have. I didn't miss anything else. Thank you.
And as Donna mentioned, after that last design review committee, we did go back and make those updates about the larger windows and the rake being enlarged, and added the window on the left side to the stairwell. For the porch and the columns, we're going to go with an AZAC wrapped.
Yeah, AZAC composite. So we were talking about the faux wood graining versus the smooth side. Most AZAC comes, one side is faux wood grain. If you flip the board over, the other side is smooth. That way, whoever's doing the application can pick which they want. So when you go and buy an AZAC, you really have a 2-in-1 application. You know, you can flip the board for the smooth side, or you can use the grain side. So it doesn't really matter in that sense. We don't really have a preference. If you want us to use the smooth, that's okay. It's not going to be any type of special order or special material because, as I mentioned, it is a 2-in-1.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Harrison with his hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Well, I would like to focus for a moment on an element that others haven't mentioned yet, and that's the 3 windows at the top in the pediment of this front facade. Buildings of this style and this character and in this area don't have 3 windows at the top, so it really should just be one single window, as we have seen on other examples today, for example, previously. I cannot support that scheme as drawn there. I think the fascia, the frieze fascia underneath the eave should be have greater depth. And I wonder, I can't tell, I couldn't tell from the presentation, do the garage doors open onto Wheat Court, or do they face Clinton?
So we had discussed with the previous committee which direction these doors were going to face. It is not possible for them to face Wheat Court because of the way our sliding fence is going to work. The fence would slide right into those doors. So those doors have to be facing west for our fence to work as designed. If the fence, go ahead.
Maurice, could you go to the slide that shows the garage then? There.
So that's the west side.
Okay. Have you explored making 3 openings, or at least 3 appearing openings, so that it doesn't look like a commercial garage?
No, that wasn't brought up with the last committee. They didn't seem to take any issue with that. So no, we did not explore that. The reason we had designed it as 2-in-1 is obviously the 16-foot door is, for our standard vehicles. And then the single opening door would be for my commercial vehicle. With the fence being so opaque, you're not even really going to be able to see into there anyway. So a lot of the design for those doors is structured on turn radius for my 3/4 ton vehicle. And the way those doors are structured also with the direction they're facing, that makes the most sense for everything to work in conjunction with the way that the fence will have to be designed.
Yes, but to be designed, to have a building like this in an historic district, there needs to be some attention to the aesthetics of it. And I think that the aesthetics of your doors could look more like barn doors, for example, so that they take on less of a commercial feel and more of a domestic scale in the neighborhood.
Okay, well, they do have to be at 10-foot height minimum.
Well, we don't have to approve it. So, I'm just giving you some examples of where you could improve this design. So I will let others comment. But at the moment, I can't support it the way it is now.
I think
Madam
what Mr.
Chair.
Harrison is saying is that there are manufacturers, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, I can't think of it, that have carriage-like doors that can meet the standard modern materials, heights, but simulate a historic look. Even dividing down the larger door into smaller ones so that it feels more proportional to the scale of traditional garage doors or carriage doors. So I would agree with Mr. Harrison's comment that I would highly recommend studying the door design so that it has a more historical feel versus the flat panel door that you currently have shown.
That was an excellent summation. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we also have Adrienne Bailey and Michelle Anderson with their hands raised.
Go ahead, Ms. Bailey.
Louise, could you continue with the slide and tell, just move the slide and I'll tell you where to stop, because I have a question or something I noticed and I need the owner to clarify it. Just the elevation. Keep going. Stop. Right. Go back.
The side elevation?
Yeah, no, to go back. One more.
The front?
No, go back.
Sorry, there's a delay when you say go back, so I don't know what you're seeing. What do you want to see?
There's 2 more elevations before this one.
This is the front elevation.
Okay.
Left, right side,
Okay.
back.
Right there. All right, thank you. One of my comment was about the 3 windows, so thank you, Mr. Harris. I didn't like how that looked either. But I have a comment on this balcony, and I just want to make sure, is that a balcony up there in the attic area?
It is. It's a walkout sun porch.
Do we have an elevation that's I can see on the side?
You do.
Oh, what is it? Do you have one?
I don't see one.
I don't see one either. Okay, go back to that elevation, Louise.
No, this shows,
Yeah, right there. Okay. How far out is that? And again, I don't like how this balcony look. It looks too access the elevation. Just wonder if you can nail it lengthwise. But what's the depth of it? How far out is it coming off the face of the building?
isn't it 14 feet? 14 feet.
No, the depth, not the length. From the face of the building out. The depth.
Depth of the porch.
The way is it 14 feet deep because your door is located in the main hip? Is that correct? If you go to the next drawing?
Yes.
So go to the next drawing, Maurice. So the balcony does not project off the building. The lower roof area on the left side of the building, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my interpretation of your drawings.
Okay.
The lower area on the left side is the sun porch area. The door is in the main
I see.
gable.
Okay, I see what. All right.
Did I state that correct? I'm sorry.
Correct.
Did I say that correct? Okay.
All right. So from the face of the building out is 14 feet. All right. Okay. And you're just lining up with the second and first floor. All right. Now go back to the elevation, the one that I was looking at. Yeah. The length of it, what I'm looking at, do it have to be that long? Or can it be shortened?
You're saying width, the width of the sun porch?
What I'm looking at in the front, can it, the size of it be shortened, almost getting closer to the door, but not too close? I don't like the look of the balcony on that elevation. Can it be shortened on the side?
I mean, so
Not really. I mean, those are the dimensions of the 3rd story. You know, that's the same. Even if that was all an interior structure, that would be the dimension of the room. So we just made part of that an exterior structure. To shrink that in, I don't logistically know how that would work. We're just following the footprint of the third story as is.
Okay. All right. Okay, I just want to clarify that is a balcony up there. All right.
It is.
That's my comment.
Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Two comments or questions. The garage, the doors to the garage face west, which means that it faces neither Wheatport nor Clinton. It faces the property next door, right?
Correct.
So it's odds are you're not going to be able to see the garage doors from either street, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
You will not be able to see those doors at all.
My other comment is regarding the front door. It's a paneled metal door.
Yes.
It's the one thing I tried to issue with. I just think it looks like, or you'd see, and either insensitive renovation or new construction. I'd like you to explore a more appropriate door.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up quite a bit. I'm trying to hear you the best I can. So we talked about this door with the previous committee quite a bit. They didn't like that we were going to use a fire-rated exterior steel door. They wanted to see us use a wooden door. I don't understand the purpose of that because we are painting this door a solid color. So the material of it, to me, is irregardless because it's going to be painted a solid color. When you're recommending a wooden door, are you saying you want it to be stained and clear-coated? Or you want it to be wooden but painted a solid color?
I think even if you paint it.
So why do I have to spend $5,000 or $6,000 on a solid wood door when it's just going to be painted and you wouldn't know the difference between steel or wood once it's painted? It's going to be the same sheen of paint and it's going to be the same color. You're not going to know what that material is.
Have you priced out a wooden door and it's $5,000 or $6,000?
Yes, I look at wooden doors every day in my line of work, all the time. They're very, very expensive. We are on a tight budget and we are trying to do things cost effectively at this point. If you're saying you want the wood, if you need the door to be stained and clear coated, I understand your point. But I don't see why, if it's going to be painted, why it has to cost, 5 times more than a steel door when it's going to look the same.
I think your drawing here may help what Ms. Anderson is saying. The design of the door that you've shown us in your example materials for the steel product is more of a typical spec home style versus the door that you've shown here in your elevation, which is more traditional proportions to the paneling. I don't know if that's raised or
Those are 6 raised panels. That's correct.
But your drawing that's on the screen shows a 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 4 raised panels. I apologize.
So I think that's where Ms. Anderson's asking for some clarification or commenting that what you're showing as the actual product doesn't feel as appropriate as what you've shown in your elevations, that you're a 4-panel product that is has more historical proportions would be more appropriate for this house.
So we're no longer talking about the material. We're just talking about the aesthetics of the panels. Is that correct? Am I understanding you?
That was what I pulled forward from Ms. Anderson's comments.
Okay, so our builder.
Let her just finish so that you can answer since I'm just interpreting. Michelle, was that correct?
The 4 panels would be an improvement over that standard 6 panel.
That is fine. I am most concerned with being able to afford this project, and so the material is more concerned to me than the amount of panels. The reason that last slide of the door image was added was I believe that the manufacturer that our builder told us that we could work with. I think that's the closest we could find. If we need to explore a different manufacturing door that may have what you guys are calling more traditional panel style, that would be fine, as long as the cost is comparable with a standard exterior steel fire rated door.
I would explore alternate manufacturers and submit the final design to staff. Other questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, I still don't like the appearance of the elevation with the balcony, the length of it can just be shortened. So I'm not in agreement with the balcony.
I personally don't have a problem with the length of the balcony. My personal opinion, I think they've done a nice job to discreetly tuck it in there so it looks like a lower addition, but is actually an outdoor space. So my personal opinion is I don't mind the width of the balcony based on trying to work with roof heights.
Yeah, we have the we.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, working with the existing roof line that we have drawn and working with the dimensions, the footprint of that third story, it doesn't make sense to cut into our square footage there. That's a good image right there. It doesn't make sense to lose any of that square footage, especially because it's the rear of the home and it will be facing towards the alley. It's not even going to be highly visible at all. But for us to lose square footage, why wouldn't we just stay within the existing footprint of the current construction anyway? That is why it's drawn that way, and that is what we had envisioned, is to gain as much space as possible for the exterior.
Understand.
Madam Chair, we have Michelle Anderson, and I'm not sure if Mr. Harrison has another comment or not. His hand is still raised.
Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
I'm fine with the balcony as it's drawn.
Thank you. We think it's beautiful.
Mr. Harrison?
I'm ready to make a motion if that's appropriate.
That would be great. Please go ahead.
I move we approve this project with the condition that they reduce the 3 pediment windows to 1, and the garage doors be redesigned to be more aesthetically appropriate in the spirit of what we have discussed here today, being like carriage facade or something like that. I don't know how to quite put that, but that those changes can be submitted to staff.
I understand. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, as long as we can keep those doors at a commercial height of 10 foot, I do not mind whatever the aesthetic is. That doesn't really matter to us. We just need the functionality of the space.
I don't believe I have ever mentioned the height of them. So I think if you could focus, please, on the aesthetics, which is what we're really concerned about here, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
So the only other condition that I noted that I didn't hear mentioned, but please, if I missed it, was to study the design of the front door. So that is more of a traditional proportions versus the standard commercial.
Oh, yes, I would add that to the motion.
I agree. I second that motion.
Excellent. We have a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Pettit, could you please call roll and announce the results?
Hold on.
Hey there. Carl?
I am here.
All right, could you please call roll and announce the results?
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Colicchia,
Yes.
Mr. Collier,
Yes.
Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Tarasic,
Yes.
Trot.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you. We look forward to seeing your project constructed. Sorry about that. So I think that concludes, no, I'm sorry, we have one more. We'll move on to our 6 applicants. The Metzer building located at 1899 West 25th Street, a banner installation.
Madam Chair, it looks like we have Antoine Washington, Doug Perkowski, and Ashley Shaw.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Okay. I had to call in. I was logged in earlier and I got kicked off for some reason and couldn't get back on. So I'm calling in from my phone. If you guys can't hear me, let me know. This is Ashley Shaw, Director of Neighborhood Planning for Ohio City Incorporated. Antoine Washington is the artist and was on the call earlier. I'm not sure if he has rejoined or not yet, but I let him know that we are up. So he may be calling back in to talk about the concept. But we, the spirit behind this project, Cleveland Foundation has, for the last couple of summers, hosted an event called Common Ground that brings community members together on the same day in the same place, and they talk about different issues that impact their communities. And this year they're not able to do that, and so they have offered to neighborhoods a stipend in order to do their own projects in the spirit of Common Ground. So we decided that we would like to work with a local artist to design a banner that promotes racial equity and sort of draws attention to all the conversations around race that are going on right now. And so we've worked with Doug Perkowski, who is the property owner of this property at 1899 West 25th Street. He has offered his wall. And then we worked with local artist Antoine Washington to design the banner. It is a 6-foot by 24-foot banner. It's mesh. It would be installed on the north-facing wall of this property, and I believe in the presentation that you're seeing, there's an outline of where on the building it is intended to go. It would be fastened in the mortar joints. There's grommets in the banner every 2 feet. The property owner installed similar banners like this on his property with a building name, and so he's basically following the same guidelines in attaching this building as he does with his other properties. And then the mural concept, I don't know if Antoine has made it on the call, but like I mentioned, it is, is intended to, show support for the Black Lives Matter movement and all of the discussions that are going on around racial equity right now, and trying to show that that is an important, this is a really important issue that we want to have conversations around in Ohio City. Part of the Common Ground stipend in this agreement with the local artist is that we had discussed doing some sort of community conversation around race and racial equity, and so we envision once the murals installed, we can get a small group of neighbors together near the mural with the local artist to do an artist talk around race and have a conversation with that. So that is the details of the project, the spirit behind it, and if Antoine's here, he can speak up more on the actual concept.
It appears that Mr. Washington is on the call.
Okay.
How you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes. So yes. When Ashley reached out to me and Doug reached out to me about doing the concept around the Black Lives Matter movement, me as an artist started to think about what's going on today. Wanting the banner to speak to the times and wanting to speak to what is going on and what's important, and actually helping to continue the conversation. So I decided to go with the concept of breaking down the American flag in different ways and different colors. That's why you see the stars and the stripes. And I tend to do that throughout my work when it comes to like my public art is to tell the story of American history through a Black experience. So that's why I chose the figures that I chose, which would be on your left side. Um, if you see the actual concept picture of how the banner will look, it will have Ida B. Wells on the left, facing you, and then on your right, you will have Rosa Parks, who are two, I would say, women of two Black women that actually led some great, I'll say, revolts and boycotts throughout our American history. One with Rosa Parks, everyone knows about the bus boycott, and also alongside March with Dr. Martin Luther King, and just had a long history, and also moved to the Midwest, which was a connection between Ohio, Detroit, and then you have, Cleveland and Detroit, and then you have Ida B. Wells, who kind of made the same thing in a different way. She fought for a lot of women's rights, was an abolitionist as well, was also a journalist, but also fought for racial equality as the same vein as Rosa Parks. So, and she often, and then she moved to Chicago, which is another tie to the Midwest, which is not too far from Cleveland as well. So I wanted to also, with this concept, bring forth giving the Black women in the civil rights movement. I wanted to give them some praise, because often Dr. King and the other ones, other men that have led great revolts and were great men that had led in this during this time. I wanted to be able to give the women also some type of flowers, because they often get left out and people don't often mention them. So, however, this banner is to this concept is to bring forth the conversation, also bring forth and to inspire, I'll say, the younger youth who walk past it, to also go and further educate themselves on who these people are, who these figures are, and the history behind and the reason why they were chose. But these two women, and I mean these three women, which the one in the middle is just a painting that I did, that I incorporated in there. That's the thing that I like to do, is to also add a portion of my hand and digital work, and to combine the two, because I can't really get the feel. I want people to also feel the emotion and get the original markings that I did with my hand, also with digital work. So the middle piece is actually a painting that I did that I incorporated into a digital piece. However, this all ties into a bigger and broader story, which, as you can see in the background, racial equity.
Madam Chair, we also have Tara Petrus from our Public Art Coordinator for City Planning.
Excuse me. For reaching out to Antoine to do this piece. I think this conversation about racial equity is very important, more important than it's probably ever been. I'm a big fan of Antoine's work. I think his work is very thought-provoking and provocative. And I especially appreciate that he celebrates women in the way that he does with his artwork. So it also speaks to gender equity, that does not have very much female representation in our public art. And I know this is deemed as a banner, but I look at it as a temporary art, public art installation. I'm very supportive of this project. I did have a couple of questions I may have missed somewhere. One was, how long will this piece be up? And Antoine, if you have a title for it.
Well,
I can speak to your first question, Tara, and thank you for your support. We envision it being up for at least 12 months. It could stay up longer, as long as the banner stays in good shape. But as soon as it started to see wear and tear, the landlord said he'd like to keep the message, but maybe look at doing a different banner once it started to fall apart. But we're hoping for a minimum of 12 months.
And one more thing I forgot to ask, on mesh banner that's going to be fastened in the mortar joints, is there going to be framing around it, or will it just be the banner directly fastened to the building?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Is there going to be what around it?
Is there going to be framing around it, or is it going to be directly attached to the building with the grommets?
Attached to the building.
Okay. And Antoine, did you have a title for it?
Yes. The title would be "The Fight for Racial Equity."
You.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. Do we have feedback from the local design review?
Good morning, Donna Gregonis-Bailey with the Hyacinth Incorporated. Again, it's almost afternoon, so happy almost afternoon. So the local design review committee did not review the artwork, but they did review the location and the application. They would prefer that this be installed where this be attached at the mortar joints, which was shown on the drawing, and also that that this was vinyl, and they were okay with it, and just making sure that the mortar joints would be repaired after this was taken down as well, to not damage the facade of the building, the side facade. Thank you.
Thank you. And feedback and questions and comments from the commission?
Madam Chair, we have Ms. Bailey and we have Mr. Harrison.
Go ahead, Ms. Bailey.
Mr. Washington, I really appreciate both artworks, the one that you've shown previously as well as this one. My comment is, you don't find too many women being recognized of all ethnic group. So this is kind of interesting. But I do have a comment. Could we go back to the previous slide that showed the landscape, other artwork? That one. No, go back. We just saw it. Yeah, right there. Tara, I have a question for you. The lower left artwork and the one we're looking at, how did you come up with the decision between the two? Actually, I like this one better, but I also like the second one because it's just focusing on just African American female. This one has a variety of individual in this. I just want to know how that decision came about between this one and the one that we're looking at.
Adrian, the one at the bottom with the lady with her head cocked to the side, that was actually part of a mural that was installed on the cafe art wall at Rebel in Public Square.
Okay.
Black figures, and then the other ones were some utility box wraps that he did in Midtown. So I'll let him speak more to that, but those are previous works. It doesn't say so on the slide, but those are other works of his.
Okay, so those already been installed. Okay, go back to the previous slide. Okay, thank you for the clarification. And I can see, I like the artwork, but Tara, did you have any comments on the colors? Mr. Washington, can you explain the colors of the stripes?
Well, let's just be clear. We don't really have privy over the artwork itself.
Okay.
Make adjustments. We do have privy to comment on size, location, its impact on the building.
All right, that's fine. One of the questions is that size of the artwork will be fitting in the blue marking that you had on the building. So it's going to fit exactly in there. And yeah. So, and I like the question that Tara mentioned. I don't think it should have a framing around it. Just the borders of the artwork should just be enough. What's the size of that? Mr. Washington? Or does it? I'm just curious of the size of it. The height.
The size is
the height and the width.
6 feet. Yeah, it's 6 feet by 24 feet, I believe.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's all the comments I have. Like I said, the previous one, that artwork that you did, I like the colors of the stripe of the logo. I was just wondering how you chose the colors of the stripes on this that we're trying to approve. But I really appreciate recognized African American women, and as I've mentioned before, there's always the challenge of women of all ethnic to be recognized for their work. Explain the stripe color, how you came up with that.
What the stripe colors is just I do a bunch of work containing like black figures. I mean, I just always decide to choose color just off of emotion and how I feel. It's no particular reason why I chose those colors. I just thought they had a great sense of balance in the way that I thought, and I thought the colors pop. So it wasn't really a real significant deep thing that I went into with the colors. I just thought they looked good.
Now, with the hand and the image in front, could you explain that a little more? What that is, I can't read it.
Yeah, so the image in the front is the woman. She's holding a laptop. So basically, what it is, she's holding a laptop, and on the stickers, it just says different things like Black Girls Code. It says Black History Year, and it says FUBU, for us by us. So it says different messages, and on her shirt it says Freedom Matters. So all of these women are just basically putting forth the messaging of how important our ancestors and everything that been going on in America, that this country has been facing since the time of its inception. We all know that racism has been the fabric of that. So I'm just here to continue the message.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Harrison and Mr. Collier.
Mr. Harrison?
You're muted.
Sorry, just a quick question for my architect colleagues. Are we certain that mortar joint applications are better than actually going into the brick face? Because mortar is a lot more fragile than the brick, and I do wonder whether structurally it's better to go through the brick rather than the mortar. But I would defer to my architectural colleagues on that. Madam Chair.
I personally would recommend the mortar joints also because it's repairable, where the face of the brick is not repairable as easily.
Okay, fair enough.
And patch it where the brick is not as easily patched. It's usually a removal of a brick when you place a hole through it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. That's helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Collier?
Yes, just real quick. First and foremost, I think this needs to be extremely visible. So being as large as possible, I think is preferable. But I noticed that they respected the Bailey's. I'm assuming that was a painted on sign, many years ago. So they fit right in that context. And I think this should be visible as you approach West 25th going south. So if you were to just say, if you were up by, say, Pizza World, you could potentially see this. Is that correct, Mr. Gorgonis?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, good. I just want to make sure that it's extremely visible because it's very relevant. But I think this is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also say I think it's a great location, a great size. Knowing we can't do color, I would just maybe take your mock-up of your mural and make sure that your colors do pop on the red brick and don't lose, the vibrance that it's shown here on a black background. So I think that's just a color coordination comment, an opinion. So With that, if there are no other comments, would someone like to put forward a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to put forth a motion to approve. And I do want to make one other comment. You know, at night, will this still be visible? Or, and this is to Ms. Gregonis, is there a possibility to just shine some uplighting on this off of the rooftop? I believe is that Soho next to it.
That is a great suggestion, and we can bring it up to the landlord. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see at night because this area is can get really busy, and now there's the outdoor dining activity we got going over there. So I think making sure that people can see it at night would be helpful. But I would like to entertain, propose a motion to approve the proposal as is.
I second it, but I have a comment.
Okay, further discussion, go ahead.
Mr. Washington, could we get back to the artworks that have you done in the past? Okay. I noticed you also have stars on this mural that we're going to approve. And I like the language, a certain docket needed to the language on the shirt. I'm just wondering, are you duplicating the same idea to see the star for the other artwork, maybe on a laptop, maybe put a small note on the laptop with the star muse? A certain,
the stars.
Intent or not?
No, that wasn't my intent. The stars, which I explained in the beginning, when the stars and the stripes is pretty much me breaking down the American flag. And I use the different colors to represent the melting pot that represents America, that we support, that the different races and cultures and everything like that. However, often what gets lost in the darkness is that Black people get lost in the darkness. That was the whole purpose of that quote, is that you need Black people also in this country if we're going to say that if we're going to say that what this country stands for, as far as like a democracy, or just as far as like equality or unity. America is built on all of that. So you can't have America without Black people. So that's what that meant. However, the stars and the stripes just means just pretty much me breaking down the American flag.
Okay, I was just making a comment of that that quotation possibly being on that laptop, but that's your decision.
Yeah. That's why I put those. Like I said, that was from a previous painting that I did.
Yeah, so you don't want to duplicate.
Yeah.
I would like to say one last thing. I hope that you all will definitely keep this up longer than a month. I think, like I said before, it's a very important conversation. It's ongoing. So if you guys can keep it up for more than a year, I will keep it up as long as possible, that it's still in good condition. And if you're going to consider some similar types of installations that speak to the same issue.
Thank you, Tara. It'll be up for a minimum of 12 months.
Could we talk a little bit about the banner materials? I mean, the length of it, or how it holds up with the weather. You know, talk a little bit about the banner and the material.
Sure. So the banner would be printed on a mesh material. Similar, I think the most well-known mesh banner is the one on the Sherwin-Williams building downtown. So it would look similar to that. The mesh is more durable than the vinyl and holds up better in winter and the weather in Cleveland. And so that is why we decided to go with the mesh over the vinyl banner.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, or are we ready to? Mr. Pettit? Are you able to take roll?
Madam Chair, if you can hear me, and I'm still here.
We can hear you.
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Colicchia,
Yes.
Mr. Collier,
Absolutely.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison, Mr. Harrison,
Yes, sorry.
thank you. Mr. Tarasik,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. It's a very exciting banner. We look forward to seeing it installed. Is there a date that you're looking at installing this?
As soon as we can get the permit. The landlord is anxious to get it installed. And thank you all for your support.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I apologize. I have a hard stop here in a few minutes, so I'm going to go through the next parts fairly quickly. And if not, Giancarlo, you may need to take over. Meeting minutes, I don't believe we have any today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do we have any administrative reports or environmental reports or staff reports?
Just two items. I will be sending out a couple of emails to the commission this afternoon to update a couple of projects and to get some feedback. But other than that, I have no report today.
Okay. Then we are to adjournment. Oh,
Madam
go ahead.
Chair, I do have one thing. I sent out invitations to everybody for 2 separate times to visit the proposed demolition of the Walls branch of the Cleveland Public Library and the Detroit Chateau next door for Monday, the 27th. There are 2 times, 10 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. You may choose one or the other based upon your availability. And masks are required, and they will be taking temperature screenings because there will be CPL staff at the library as well at that time. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, Carl. Then I guess we are to adjournment. Don?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I don't think we need any further conversation. So Don, will you call roll and announce the results?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Colicchia,
Yes.
Mr. Collier.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Tarasik,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Take care, guys.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.